biological anthropologists are totally willing to be like, oh yeah, like the teeth of these people are similar to these Homo erectuses, so like of course they're related. They're like way willing to just talk about descent, who descends from whom, and stuff like that, and talk about that, why it's important. But
we live in the age of ChatGPT. It's eminently easy and plausible to produce whatever kind of paper supporting whatever kind of argument. If you genuinely believe that the field of anthropology would be improved by your superior genetic interpretation, publish a paper, reinvent the field.
Well, I mean,
how they invented the fucking field to begin with.
Well, fields can get stuck in sort of like, I do think that fields can get stuck in like traps, like because all of the experts in the field already believe the false thing. They're not going to accept, outsiders come in and saying they're wrong, that their worldview is wrong. Like, if someone...
There's no solution to that. You just start your own school.
Yeah, well, I mean, there already is just, like, we already have other departments that are sort of picking up the slack to some degree. Like, you already have, like, economics is, like, taking over for, like, there's economic historians, and, like, that's kind of, like, some what sociology is doing. Economics in general is kind of doing what sociology is doing.
Economics just has so much reliable numbers.
Yeah, and the economists general, like, their axiom that, like, people follow incentives is, like, a much, like, it's a very good, it's, like, a very sensible axiom. Like, even if it doesn't apply in all cases, like, it's a pretty good way to bet,
Right.
Whereas other fields, like, axioms are, like, I don't know, are on less solid foundation.
Try to grab too much, not be as precise and binary.
Well, what were you meaning by literature is broken?
Yeah, why is literature broken? Screw you.
No, I'm curious.
No, I also took that personally, like, what the hell? What, I can't enjoy a book anymore? Screw you.
No, not, like, writing literature is not broken, but the academic study of it, like, it used to be that, like, what academic studying literature would do is to, like, try, I mean, maybe I have a too rose-colored view of this, but they used to, like, read texts and then try to find, like, these, like, meanings in them that are, like, deep, profound statements about human nature and about the human condition. And, like, oh, I read Moby Dick, and now I'm going to tell you some profound things about the human condition and human nature.
Right.
And now it's more about, like, leftist politics. It's about, like, postmodernism. It's about just only talking about, like, how, like, race and gender are, like, I don't know, like, are, like, relevant to the thing. Like, it's just no longer in the business of, like, getting deep insights. Literature should be giving you deep insights, and, they don't care about that as much as they should.
I think that you need to have a better scope, a more historical scope on the development of literature. Like, the one you gave as an example was Moby Dick. It's over 100 years old, in a place that had free speech and free press. I guarantee, if you were to read the majority of things published in the year that Moby Dick came out, you would criticize their literature as well. Because the majority of literature is bullshit crap that we forget about because nobody cares. The things that we, like, label uppercase L literature are those things that survive the test of time. That's why we continue to study them for insights into human nature, because humans keep coming back to them. Yeah. So the stuff you're seeing today is just most of the shit that isn't going to stick and no one's going to care about in 50 years.
Yeah, I mean, just to be clear, I'm very much not talking about writing of literature. I think people are writing great novels now as much as ever. It's just the way
of it is lacking.
The way they're analyzing it and talking about it is less impressive these days.
I think that's true, because politics has, like, infected a lot of academia. I have no doubt that there's definitely English professors doing good work, but I think if you get, like, run-of-the-mill professor and, like, the courses he's going to put up there in order to get people to sign up so that he stays at the college, yeah, it's going to lead to woke nonsense, sexual interpretations, gender, some buzzword that gets the kids in, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, sorry.
No, I was just gonna
No,
say
go for it.
it's one thing if naturally when the interpretation naturally bends towards those things, but what I don't like you're saying, is when it's obviously forced. Like when it's like forced to fit these narratives rather than like if it naturally has these themes, okay, great. But you can tell when someone's just forcing the issue.
Yeah.
Like, I would love to go through a bunch of Shakespearean plays and discuss gender.
No, you wouldn't.
Yeah, I would.
No, because with Shakespeare fucked up everything with gender, so he had women playing men and men playing women.
Which is exactly why I would like to study.
Do you know why he did it? Because he was gay.
Shakespeare. Because there are a lot of jokes there that are
No, there's
based
no
on the
jokes. He
fact
did it because
that
he was gay.
he a young boy playing a girl.
No, he did it because he was gay.
Oh,
you know why? Because he was trying to prove that it doesn't matter what gender you are.
It doesn't matter.
It was a miracle marvel. He
Where
was
you from, love?
No, he was one of those people, and that's why, if you didn't even respect him, by the way, if you didn't respect him, you wouldn't speak any of his words, by the way. So don't be hypocritical. So,
Who said I should disrespect Shakespeare?
no, if you didn't respect him, you wouldn't speak any of his words. So listen, he didn't see a gender in roles in play. So he was well ahead of his time in everything, in every manner of every aspect of creativity.
Whoa, that's impressive.
It's not impressive, it's true though.
Oh,
I'm
impressed.
So, but if you don't respect Shakespeare, don't speak any of his language, end of.
Right. That seems reasonable.
I don't respect Shakespeare.
Harsh.
Okay, so don't speak any of his language then.
Yeah,
okay.
That's right.
So get out of the internet, end of.
He didn't talk like I talked.
Yeah, no, he spoke a lot. He actually brought a lot of the English languages now. So maybe you should leave the conversation.
I'm good.
No, you're not, because you don't respect him. You shouldn't be here, to be honest.
Go study some Beckett.
No, but no. You're talking about Shakespeare. Let's look who into Beckett liked, influenced. Go on. Who was Beckett influenced by?
Yeah, who?
You tell me.
You tell me.
You tell me.
You ask the question.
You tell me to look into Beckett. I don't know anything about him, so you tell me. You tell me. I know a lot about Shakespeare. You tell me.
Right.
No.
Okay, I love
You said to
but
me.
you came in here a little hot. Right away. You were just
Mate, you were talking about Shakespeare. That's why I joined.
I know, but she has an adorable accent.
No, she does. Yeah. Kathy, don't you come to the entertainment industry rooms? I think that's where I've seen you.
Why are you changing the subject?
Oh, I'm just trying to remember where I connected with you before.
I'm talking about, I don't like people being hypocritical, end of.
Right.
Well, speaking of Shakespeare, I did have the pleasure of it was interesting because I was doing the AI data training job that I had, and there was a question on literary interpretation for him. And I got to spend 3 hours delving deep into my favorite Shakespeare play for, that was the limit. I could only do 3 hours.
Your teacher's a shit then.
No, it wasn't my teacher. It was my AI data training job.
That's not good then, is it? 3 hours?
I didn't even finish my sentence. Can you stop setting people up?
3 hours into fucking 30 years of history. That's not good.
Go take the pledge, love.
I don't need to. 3 hours into 30 years of history.
It sounds like you do, love.
Mate, 3 hours? Are you saying 3 hours delving into 30 years of history?
Oh my god, I didn't even finish my sentence. And I didn't finish it.
I was agreeing with her. By the way, I'm not arguing with her. You're the one interrupting me and you're talking.
Yeah, right.
What?
I was the one interrupting your conversation about Shakespeare.
I was talking about. She was talking to me. She wasn't talking to you. Am I wrong? You were telling me about you were delving in, and then all I heard was you saying I was looking into, and then all I heard was his voice.
Love,
am I wrong?
What's wrong with you can't be fixed by the pledge.
No, I want to hear what she was saying.
It's okay. I'm done.
I didn't hear what you were saying.
I was just saying it was fun because I was able to.
What was fun? I didn't hear you. I'm so sorry. I didn't hear you because all I heard when you said I was delving in, and then all I heard was someone's voice jumping in. So I'm so sorry about that.
Oh, it's okay. I was just saying. Okay, so I had a job where I was an AI data trainer. So basically, you get prompt. Basically, you have to teach the AI model how to answer. So I was just saying I got to do a deep dive into Hamlet and get paid for it, and it was a lot of fun. But yeah, that was.
I'm sorry. I didn't hear what you said because when you said to me, I got a job involved with, and then literally I heard someone else's voice. So I'm so sorry about that. That wasn't me, by the way. That was whoever was in between. I'm just saying that wasn't anything to do with me. But no, I agree with you. It would be fucking interesting. It's like I left my job of 30 years. I work for the government, and then by the way, I'm a musician, and now I'm in uni full time. And then we delve into all kinds of shit, and I'm like a geek, and I love it. So, but I don't like anyone fucking intervening in between, like for clout. By the way, just saying.
So here's one beef I have with Shakespeare. Like, think about someone actually wanting to feel suicidal, like wanting to kill themselves. They're not going to be like, to be or not to be. This is
but
question. Whether
he
his
didn't
noble
want to kill himself.
Oh, by the way, Kathy, I have a rule of no interruptions in my room, just to be clear.
So what are you talking about then?
I have a no interruption rule in my house, so.
But I'm interrupting because Shakespeare
you're not allowed.
Shakespeare didn't want to kill himself, though.
You're not allowed to.
I don't give a shit. If you're misquoting and you're miseducating, I'll fucking interrupt.
Anyway, when he says to be or not to be, that is the question whether it is nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune or take arms against the sea of troubles. Like, that's just not how. If I'm suicidal, I'm just like not thinking like that. That's just like not the kinds of thoughts I'm having.
Well, Sam, you might be interested to understand that the entire plot point of Hamlet is that he can't seem to decide what to do.
Yeah.
In fact, if you wanted a modern cinema to compare to, easiest one would be The Lion King. And if you'll notice, it takes convincing for cinema to decide to come back and kill his uncle who has taken the place of his father, exactly like Hamlet. Because, it's a 1-to-1. But in Hamlet, the reason he's deciding whether or not to die, there's several interpretations as to why he doesn't want to kill his uncle who his father informed him had actually murdered him. But he wastes a lot of time the whole story. And to be or not to be is illustrating what kind of a strange position he's in, that he's even considering death. He doesn't like anything. He's a very depressive character, and he doesn't like the fact that his father was a ghost and told him that his uncle had murdered him, and he just sort of like hems and haws, mostly trying to accumulate proof. Only at the end, after everyone ends up poisoned and everyone's going to die, and it's already been clearly shown that his uncle killed his father because he did like a play with the poison going into the ear. Then at the very end, and he dies too, only then does he get to kill the king. So the whole story is about his indecision around death, which is why To Be or Not to Be is such an amazing monologue.
I like turtles.
Thanks, Dylan. But I like when people take Shakespeare stories and adapt them. Like the Kurosawa film Throne of Blood is The Lion King. Those are both adaptations of Shakespeare, and I think they're really cool. So I think the story is kind of rule, but maybe I'm also a little bit deterred by the language, which I find difficult to penetrate.
Yeah, that's fair.
And
Hamlet knew how to clap them cheeks. Am I right?
But like,
I don't know if he had sex with blood.
Okay, Sam, have you ever read Merchant of Venice?
No, but I know it's about a Jew.
Okay, yes, it is about a Jew. It's a very anti-Semitic story. A Jew is money lending, and he demands that he get what the contract calls for, which is 1 pound of flesh. Exactly, right? It was some Christian guy, his girl ran away with some kid. It's some stupid story. But then, in the end, this Jewish guy, Shylock, is so pissed off because, like, his daughter runs away also, right? So he's left holding the bag on this debt that he gave to someone, like 40 ducats, whatever the hell it was. But the guy can't pay, so he demands the alternative, which was 1 pound of flesh. And he says this over and over again over the course of the play: 1 pound of flesh, no more, no less. Now, if you review, have you ever heard the saying, "If you prick us, do we not bleed"?
Yeah.
Okay, so that is Shylock. And Shylock, by many accounts, probably has some of the best writing of Shakespeare. And he does a truly beautiful argument in "If you prick us, do we not bleed?" Because, like, the next line is, "And if you wrong us, do we not revenge?"
Wait, Mixad, have you heard Orson Welles read that? Because it's really epic.
No, but that does sound epic.
All right, wait. It's 2 minutes. And
Yeah.
If you can't hear this, like, just let me know if you can hear it.
Yeah.
He was obsessed with the character of Shylock. In the course of his life, he created 6 different Shylocks.
He's not in? Good? Good?
No, that's good.
Rolling. Shylock.
You. He has disgraced me. Laughed at my losses, mocked at my gains. Heated mine enemies, cooled my friends. Scorned my nation. And what's his reason? I am a Jew. There's not a Jew eyes. Not a Jew hands. Organs, to mention senses, affections, passions, fed with the same food, fed with the same weapons, subject to the same diseases, healed by the same means, warmed and cooled by the same summer, winter. If you prick us, do we not bleed? If you tickle us, do we not laugh? If you poison us, do we not die? And if you wrong us, shall we not revenge? If we are like you and the rest, we will resemble you. The villainy you teach us, we will execute. And we will better the instruction.
Fucking epic.
So good.
It's so good.
And in my opinion, it's like the best writing in Shakespeare. Now, critically, structurally, that story is a comedy. And the conclusion is that the Jew has to convert to Christianity and all of his property goes over to the guy that he wronged because obviously he couldn't get the pound of flesh through legal trickery because if he did, there would be 1 drop of blood more. If he got anything more or less than the 1 pound of flesh, he would be guilty of harming a non-Jew. And then and then all of his property would go to him, so as a result, he negates the contract, says, well, I can't collect on it, and he converts, and all of his property goes to the non-Jew. That's the happy ending of Merchant of Venice.
So what do you think about Macbeth? Because Macbeth and Hamlet are probably like my 2 favorites of his.
Macbeth is interesting. Macbeth strikes me as like a bit of a conceit. Like, I do like the witches at the beginning, but they're kind of irrelevant. It's really like the descent of madness of Macbeth and his wife. And it's good. They ham it up with like monologues. They're talking to the stage half the time. They're good. But to me, Merchant Origin of Madness is close to my heart as a Jew. But what's interesting about the play, aside from the fact that it's a comedy and like the Jew is clearly being beaten up, Shakespeare gives Shylock like the best lines. Now he does similar to like some other characters, like Iago is a very impressive character, but Shylock I feel gets like the best defense and still loses. Right? He's so eloquent, and everyone knows if you prick his do we not bleed, and everyone like drops that it's part of his argument as to why he needs a pound of flesh.
Yeah. No, that's true. And also, Sam, I was gonna say, because you're mentioning about adaptations. So does anybody remember the Gargoyles show cartoon?
I love that show.
Yeah, and it has the whole Macbeth and Puck was there and all that stuff.
I was obsessed with Gargoyles as a kid. That was my favorite cartoon.
I know, I love that show. And recently I saw that, I think it's on Disney Plus or something. No, what is it on? It's on some streaming. And I was like, I gotta show this to my kids.
Oh my god, yeah, they're gonna love it. Like it's like eternal. You know what I mean? Like no kid's not gonna think it's cool. Like they have to be a little bit older because you can't be like a 5-year-old and like it, but like like a 12-year-old, 10-year-old, they're gonna like it.
Yeah. My oldest just turned 11, so I'm gonna show them that. And I showed them the X-Men show from the same time, around the same time period.
Oh, that's classic.
And and they loved X-Men. Well, my youngest doesn't really care, but my older one loved it.
Which one? The 90s X-Men or X-Men Evolution?
No, the 90s one with Yes, that one.
Okay.
But also, Sam, I got into Shakespeare in high school, but I found the language difficult. So in high school, I read these books. I think it was Folger Library Series. I think was the library series, and they took the Shakespeare text, and on the left side, like they do with like Bible study guides, on the left side was the Shakespeare. On the right side was the modern interpretation, the etymology, a bit of history. Like it had a bunch of stuff. But the main thing that helped me with the language was taking a Shakespeare class in college, because first he tried to immerse us in the time period, in the world, without necessarily getting to Shakespeare then. So we got immersed in the culture around that time period, in the history, in the language, and then we delved into Shakespeare after we got properly introduced to the time period. So that very much helped, with the interpretation.
Right.
That sounds pretty helpful. Yeah, I enjoy things inspired by Shakespeare, but the language is so rough for me. I want to read a Shakespearean poem, and let's decide whether we like it or not. Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Thou art more lovely and more temperate. Rough winds do not shake the darling buds of May, and the summer's leaf has all too short a date. Sometimes too hot the eye of heaven shines, and often in his gold complexion dimmed, and every fair from fair sometimes declines, by chance or nature's changing course untrimmed. But thy eternal summer shall not fade, nor lose procession of that fair thou wast, nor shall death brag thou wanderest in his shade, when in eternal lines to time thou growest. So long as men can breathe, our eyes can see, so long lives this, and this gives life to thee. Like it's pretty to say it, but I don't get it. I don't know what he's saying. Like I don't understand what he's saying.
Well, I'll tell you this, Sam. I could hear your smug contempt while reading it, and I could also hear that in the last line he kind of caught you. Like,
I'm gonna have ChatGPT summer rewrite.
I think you need to approach it a little bit like Rachel's telling you, meaning like it isn't accessible language, right? You're not reading something in the modern vernacular. You need to first understand it with like a supplement, explain like some of the context, and then once you have the meaning applied in your mind, read through the musicality of the language as the meaning is still fresh, and then you'll see what he's getting at. You'll see the poetry. Because I heard you stumbling over the meanings, like you were stopping words. You were like a child reading teacher, like, okay, yeah, that's what the words sound like.
All right, here's the translation. Should I compare you to a summer's day? You are lovelier and more even-tempered. Strong winds shake the delicate buds of May, and summer doesn't last nearly long enough. Sometimes the sun shines too hot, and often his golden glow is hidden by clouds. Everything beautiful eventually fades, worn down by chance or nature's changing ways. But your eternal beauty won't fade away, nor will you lose the beauty you possess. Death won't be able to claim you for himself, because you'll live forever. These lines I write. As long as people breathe and eyes can see, this poem lives, keeps you alive. All right, that's pretty dope. That's pretty good. All right.
Good idea. Well expressed.
All right.
You're not going to win in your fight against Shakespeare, my friend.
Okay, here's my question. Is Shakespeare that much better than, like, Marlowe and, like, his contemporaries, and that we just happen to, like, not read his shit? Or is he, like is he actually way better than Christopher Marlowe? Or, like, I don't know. I feel like I've never given Christopher Marlowe a chance. You know what I mean? Like,
that's true. I haven't given much thought to Marlowe.
Like,
yeah, that's a good point.
like Shakespeare had peers. I wonder how he compares.
Yeah, there's probably like room within the canon to find people that will supplant him, but like some of this is like media hype, right? Like which writers get promoted. Shakespeare got preserved through whatever means, and others didn't. Is that necessarily better? I wouldn't say that, but it is historically more relevant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's probably not a coincidence that he got, like, he probably is better. You know what I mean? Like, why would they have focused on, why would they focus on him if he wasn't, like...
He's not a slouch. Like, you can't look at Shakespeare's stuff and say, oh my god, another Shakespeare. He's just, like, cramming it. And, like, he's got great canon. If you go through the plays, his histories, the poems, like, he was a prolific creator, and he did good work.
Yeah.
It's like, I like what Zed said, and I also think of it like in the modern age. Like, there's just some artists that capture the fancy of the audience in a way that others don't for whatever reason. And so sometimes, like, the Grammys, for instance, will win. And I'm like, what the fuck? Like, this other album was so much better, like, from a technical standpoint. And then they didn't win. And then it's like, oh, just because, like, it was so popular and they won. You know? Something like that.
Right. Which is why they have the Oscars.
Sam Bankman-Fried got in some... People were really mad at him for saying this quote about Shakespeare. Let me find it.
That feels like they're just looking for an excuse to be angry at SBF, which is fair, because that guy's a shit.
Alright, so here's what Sam Bankman-Fried says about Shakespeare. I could go on about the feelings of Shakespeare, but really I shouldn't need to. The Bayesian priors are pretty damning. About half the people born since 1600 have been born in the past 100 years. But it gets worse than that. When Shakespeare wrote, almost all Europeans were busy farming, and very few people attended university. Few people were even literate, probably as low as 10 million people. By contrast now, upwards of 1 billion literate people in the Western sphere. What are the odds that the greatest writer would have been born in 1564? The odds are not favorable. People got really mad at him for saying that.
Yeah, it shows a lack of understanding of what language is and how it works. Like, it's an understandable mistake to make, but he's just so bold with it.
I think there's some truth that probably there are people today that are better writers than him just because the odds are so high. But they're not going to be as influential. Like, it's very hard to, or not influential, like, Jimi Hendrix. If I play music like Jimi Hendrix, it will be derivative of him, you know? So even if I can play as good as him, he got there first, you know? So,
right.
Like,
by the way, I heard this from, like, some guy that was, like, doing deep dives into, like, music history, right? And there were, like, a whole bunch of people from, like, a certain era that said this one very particular, like, music they heard at this club was, like, the thing. And they all developed their own interesting sounds. And this guy, like, tracked down a recording of that one heard it, and it sounded like nothing. Like he didn't get at all what they heard, right? It didn't sound to him like the new stuff from the innovation, or it just sounded like random, normal stuff from that era. But the difference is the artist, right? The artists see that seed, it like gets in their head. They go like, oh, what if the guitar twangs like that? What if I like bang it like this? All the random little things, and that's what makes Shakespeare important, right? The further back the seed, the more we know the actual origins of your artistry.
Yeah. Like, there's something really impressive about Chuck Berry. Even if Chuck Berry can't shred like a modern guitarist, just the fact that Chuck Berry was like such an innovator of the guitar, and like I think that there's some like to ignore the fact that like the fact that he was able to be so innovative is a kind of genius. A, and then B, he's like Chuck Berry's good on his own terms. Like Chuck Berry's music sounds cool, even if like he doesn't do the stuff that even if he can't shred like Hendrix. So like I think there's a similar thing going on with Shakespeare, where like the fact that he was so innovative is like makes him such a genius, you know?
Right. It's a weird like thing of language, but like A, first come first serve. Like if you're just the first guy, and if you're the first guy of quality, like that's it. That's all it takes to be influential for the generations in a language.
Yeah.
Shakespeare's good. You just can't argue. Like, but by which I mean, like, sort of the English word "good" as applied to literature, by definition, basically, Shakespeare's in the conversation.
All right. I asked ChatGPT, give me the greatest writers of all time. We got Shakespeare, Tolstoy, Dostoevsky, Homer, Dante, Dickens, Proust, Kafka, Hemingway,
Wow.
Mark Twain, George Orwell.
This is an odd list.
I'm ignoring some names because I don't think they should be on the list. I mean, yeah, I mean, like, of all these people, I've only really read much. Okay, so I read Homer's Odyssey. I really liked it. Though I like the story more than I liked the like writing of it, which I guess makes sense that it's like it was like an orally told thing before it was ever written down.
Yeah, it's like a bar song.
Yeah, basically. I liked reading Old Man of the Sea by Hemingway. That was pretty good. I tried to read War and Peace. I failed. I never read Dostoevsky. Mark Twain, I read Huckleberry Finn. I really quite enjoyed it. Yeah, Shakespeare, I guess, wrecks these people. I guess so. I guess I agree.
Yeah. But you're gonna get better. Although
George R. Martin. No.
No.
It is true though that people like George R. Martin and J.K. Rowling will be considered like in 100 years they will be like not like, you know how Shakespeare was considered a pop. He was popular with the common man in his day. You know, he wasn't like academic in his day.
Right.
Like they were gonna treat Harry Potter and The Song of Ice and Fire as like it's gonna be in the same sort of league. Like Dickens also was popular in his day. Like I think a lot of the writers that we consider like the greats were like popular in their day.
Yeah, but it's not clear what survives the Wreck-It Great. Like, there's probably a dozen Wizard of Oz type stories from the past that we just don't know about.
Who wrote Wizard of Oz?
Baum. Frank Baum.
Yeah, he originally wrote, was it 11 or 13? He wrote like 11 or 13 novels. I forget the number. And then after that, his great-grandson or something wrote a bunch more.
Right.
And then like other people wrote Oz books too, so there's like a ton of Oz books.
Right. Sherlock Holmes. Robin Hood. When I was a kid, there was a fun book called Half Magic. I don't think they ever made any of those. Edward Eager was like the author. He had like a whole bunch of these cute little stories of like children coming upon some magical device and then going on an adventure. But like you don't hear about that because it wasn't turned into a cinema or a TV series. But then again, Harry Potter, amazing phenomenon while it went on. The movies are all done. What kind of staying power does Harry Potter have?
HBO show?
I think they are making a show, right? An HBO show now.
Yeah, so like Harry Potter was like Game of Thrones budget.
Right. Still just don't know how long it'll survive.
Like another decade, another 15 years.
Well, you'd say that, except that there's actual people, right, that own the property and have like a job to make sure they preserve it, right? Disney. Why would we all care about a stupid mouse in a top hat on a train 80 years later?
Because we can make really raunchy horror films with it now. So, yay.
Copyright law.
Copyright law, yeah. Public domain.
First market is always a horror film. I think I saw they came out with a Popeye horror film.
Yep. Easiest economic point of entry with the most amount of potential return.
Right.
Wait, I've never heard of this Popeye word.
Yep, there's Popeye, there's Winnie the Pooh. I think they got Mickey Mouse.
Steamboat Willie specifically.
Right, apologies, we can't say Mickey Mouse because they have a different copyright on that one.
Well, so like that's why they keep coming out with new versions of Mickey Mouse, because that extends the copyright from that point on, right? But yeah, the old ones, the old versions will start just dropping off into public domain. So those designs will all of a sudden start appearing everywhere.
Right. T-shirts, hats.
Hot Topic.
Right.
That one Sears in Idaho.
How long can you profitably proliferate an idea?
As long as it sells.
Disney's good at it.
I mean, that's why they make the live action remakes, right? They don't make them to be good. They make them to extend the IP.
Right.
So you can have literally one of the world's worst actresses playing the evil queen.
Bad actress. She's always been a bad actress.
She's always been a bad actress.
I
right?
know, it's ridiculous.
Every movie, like Fast and Furious, she's like, no, don't do that. You're like, oh man.
Or how about the fact that because we wanted like the pretty cheap Israeli chick to play Wonder Woman, Themyscira's apparently got Israeli accents speaking English, like that's their Greek island.
I know, that's hilarious. I mean, she was the hot, Israeli push, right? Like the hey, look.
And it's like a move. She did well enough for someone that like can't act or speak English well.
Yeah, her English is so bad.
Yeah.
Like
her English isn't that bad, but she does suck as an actress.
It doesn't.
I mean, it's pretty bad.
As
like Jet Li was in a movie called Romeo Must Die.
Right.
And they had to like rebuild his audio track like phonetically. And it's like, yeah, that's sort of what you have to do with Gal Gadot,
Yeah. But I will say, she did well in Wonder Woman. There was, like, I liked Wonder Woman, and I thought she did well, even though I still say she's a bad actress.
I
I mean, you're right on both points. Like, she's definitely a bad actress, and she was definitely great in the first Wonder Woman movie.
Yeah, but that's all you need. Just claw your way up, be pretty, and do well for like 5 seconds in a massive big budget movie, and then you're bankable.
I mean, the residuals game is a bit different now, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. They're always fighting about that, reworking it, the digital rights. At this point, they're like trying to get actors to give over their like DNA, basically.
Yeah, their 3D body scan, their voice modulator, their fucking everything that they've ever written or said is recorded onto AI, and then that AI is used as a backup actor for that particular person.
Yeah, it's like that movie Simone with Al Pacino.
Yeah, the cynics of cinema really did warn us, didn't they?
Did they? Who warned us of this?
Well, like you just said it, Simone is a perfect example of like,
right,
like, hey, this is the pitfalls once we start creating virtual celebrities. And then, here we go, 2025.
Yeah, but like, I'd say like just the original statute from like Queen, whoever, on copyright that like the Americans put into their constitution. It was a good idea. It was preserving a lot of interesting innovations. The development of the camera went nuts. Cinema is just something new. Struck a chord. The propaganda power of cinema. And then the internet. Ugh. What have we opened?
Well, what's fascinating, right, is that this technology from the get-go was always marred with violence, right? Like the reason why Hollywood exists is because Edison had goons that would break people's legs if they didn't pay for the copyright to use the technology.
Right.
And so, like, these creative folks, like, left East Coast, went out West, got their own goons.
Yep.
And basically started East Coast, West Coast cinema war with Edison.
Yep, which went to the Supreme Court. It's how the West was won.
Michael.
What's up?
Do you think I could persuade you to have a profile picture? You've been bare for the longest time. Like, you've had that empty profile.
Yeah,
Is there a particular reason? I could make you one if you want.
My father passed away in September, and I removed my PTR as a kind of sign of mourning, which I'm in until the end of the year.
Sorry to hear that, man.
I'm sorry to hear that, bro. Well, mine is from green eggs and ham. So,
Daniel, there was a Shakespeare poem you read the other day. Can you remind me what that one was? I think it has something to do with gold, but I might be wrong.
was it? It could be Sonnet 141. Well, no, it's probably Sonnet 104. Like June and it has autumn in it. Maybe it's Sonnet 104. Yeah, it's a good one. I really love that.
To me, fair friend, you never can be old. For as you were, when first your eyed, such seems your beauty still. These winters cold have from the forest shook 3 summers pride, 3 beauteous springs, and yellow autumn turn.
seasons have I seen, 3 April perfumes, in 3 hot Junes burned. Since I first saw you flesh, which yet are green, doth beauty like a dial hand steal from his figure, no pace perceived, so your sweet hue, which methinks still doth stand, hath motion, and my eye may be deceived, for fear of which, hear this, thou age unbred, where you were born, was beauty's summer's dead. What was the other one that you said it might be? 141?
Still gives me like the chills. For whatever reason. Yeah, in faith I do not love thee with mine eyes, for they are me. 1,000 Errors Note, Sonnet 141. Which is a very odd one, by the way. There's something weird about that. It's not as like romantic. And you would think he's talking about this woman's imperfection. I don't love you with my eyes, or in them I see 1,000 errors. Nor are my ears with your tongues tuned delighted. It's like he's talking about this woman that he's in bondage to and just finds all fault. It's odd.
Sounds good.
In faith, I do not love thee with mine eyes, for they in thee 1,000 errors know, but 'tis my heart that loves you, but they despise, who, in despite of you, is pleased to dote. Nor mine ears, with thy tongues tune delighted, nor tender feeling to base touches prone, nor taste nor smell desire to be invited to any sensual feast with thee alone, but my 5 wits, nor my 5 senses, can dissuade one foolish heart from serving thee, who leaves unswayed the likeness of a man, thy proud heart's slave and vassal wretch to be. Only my plague, thus far I count my gain, that she makes me sin, awards me pain. Bro's hating over here, bro.
Bro, that was wonderful.
Bro, but he's telling the girl that she doesn't like what she sounds like, what she looks like.
He's nagging.
Yeah, it's like, yo, babe, you're ugly and you sing poorly and you smell bad, but fuck it, I'm so into you though.
I was gonna say something very out of character for me. I was gonna be like, yeah, but he's like a slave to her pussy or something. Because you can't find can't find anything else he likes about her. You know, Steph, you should read Sonnet 29. That is my favorite one.
Okay. When in disgrace, with fortune in men's eyes, I all alone would weep my outcast state, and trouble deaf heaven with my bootless cries, and look upon myself and curse my fate, wishing me like to one more rich in hope, featured like him with friends possessed, desiring this man's art, this man's scope, with what I most enjoy contented least. With what I most enjoy contented least. Yet in these thoughts myself almost despising, happily I think on thee, and then my state, like to the lark at break of day arising, from sullen earth sings hymns at heaven's gate, for thy sweet love remembered such wealth brings, that I scorn to change my state with kings. Sorry, I'm going to reread the last part because I didn't get it. Okay. Happily I think on thee, and then my state, like to the lark at break of day arising, from sunlit earth, sings hymns at heaven's gate, for thy sweet love remembered such wealth brings, and then I scorn to change my state with kings. So he's just saying, like, you make life so fucking good that I don't want to switch places with the kings. You're that amazing that, like, I can't scorn my fate because of you make my life good.
Yeah, that's what I really like that one because like I've been there before where like I've scorned my state or I'm like, God, why can't I be this person that has a million friends or why can't I be this person that does this? Just always looking like on what I wasn't or what I didn't have, and then but then a love comes into your life and like changes your entire way of thinking. Yeah, like it says, and then when you think of that love, you're like, for having experienced it, I don't even want to, change state with the key, So yeah, I like that.
Yeah. When in disgrace, with fortune and men's eyes. I like that line a lot. I alone who weep my outcast state. Those are pretty hard lines.
And I like when he says, I traveled that heaven with my bootless cries, because I also felt like times that I was crying out to God or heaven and I was getting no answer. And so I like empathized with that line. But I will say, good job reading it, having never read it before. Like, because it is kind of a tricky, a little bit,
Yeah, it's tricky. I don't fully get it when I read it. I asked ChatGPT to give the most iconic characters of all time in literature. So we got Quasimodo, Atticus Finch, Jay Gatsby, Count Dracula, Alice and the Mad Hatter, Captain Ahab, Frankenstein's monster, James Bond, Gandalf and Bilbo and Frodo, Don Quixote, Tom Sawyer, Ebenezer Scrooge, Sherlock Holmes. And you got Hamlet, Macbeth, Romeo and Juliet, Othello, King Lear. I think that of the Shakespeare iconic characters, maybe Romeo and Juliet are like the most iconic. I don't know.
probably, yeah. They seem to be the most popular, especially how many remakes and how many like stories are based upon that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you always do better when you market to the tweens.
The original Twilight is just Romeo and Juliet.
Twilight? No, Twilight was, I don't know, I was thinking 50 Shades. 50 Shades was a ripoff of Twilight. But I do know that young adult fiction basically governs everything that's created, because those are the only people that read. So, yeah, I'm not joking. So, like, Hunger Games, Divergence, all, like, Harry Potter, the reason we have these things is because the only way to, like, financially viably market books, which are far better properties to go off of than an original film, right? Out of nowhere, you're just going to throw pictures of people, tell them to show up and watch it. That's crazy. But if you get a bunch of people that are already reading a book, right? You got 1 million of them, 5 million, 100 million, then you can make a movie because it's insured. So we're all just watching YA fiction.
Hello, McSay. Hello, Sam.
I don't know. I've always sort of wondered why all the stories that are popular are sort of coming of age stories. And I thought it was just because people find the transition from childhood to adulthood to be like especially significant, and people don't care about the lives of 40-year-olds. There's probably some truth to that, but I think that your explanation is actually really interesting. That like it's just that they're the ones that read the most, so that's why they want to hear stories about themselves.
There's a whole bunch of like book publishers that whine about this. That like, why can't we make good stuff? Oh, because the only people buying are the children. person stories like Secret Life of Walter Mitty, although that is a short story. Normal guy, normal life.
Maybe Atticus Finch, because it's like a lawyer defending.
Drum normal.
Like a lawyer defending a guy is pretty normal, you know?
Right. I think there's a lot of writers have, written a lot about story structure and arcs and different types. I remember Vonnegut was talking about one called Man in a Pit. He said, you start your story at the top, right? He had like an X-Y axis. And he goes like, the X-axis is tracking the story like as it progresses through time, and the Y-axis tracks like how good the character is. Right? So he says, you start high up on the Y-axis because no one wants to hear about someone whose life is going bad. Right? So you start out good. But then your story needs something to happen. So he drops into a pit, right? As time progresses, he gets closer to everything going bad. But then, of course, he can't leave there, so the story is he gets out of the pit. And that's roughly the story.
You know, one that I liked that I think, well, I guess it would be normal people in normal events, was that movie Osage County.
Right.
Yeah, that was, that did with the family, like with, but I don't know, some people could maybe argue it's not a normal family, but anyway, I thought that was a good. But do you mean like, is that what a slice of life, I guess, movie would be, is like?
Yeah, usually.
Yeah.
Small, like O. Henry stories.
And I guess like Watchmen would be like weird people, weird events, maybe, or like that's a comic book.
Yeah, that's a weird thing to say. Like, how do you characterize a weird event if they're weird people? Like, isn't your that they identified Luke Skywalker as the son of Darth Vader mean that that's weird people and a weird event, or is that just weird people?
Like, if you had a story, like with Moby Dick, you have like, they're not like people with superpowers. It's like a story about normal people getting a whale. But if you had a story about like,
well, it is a weird event because
yeah, it's a weird event. So if you had to do like, if they were telepaths and also trying to get Moby Dick, like that would be weird people and weird event. You know what I mean? Like so, I guess any stories with like magical people. But usually stories with magical people, in fact. Okay, so you have like.
I think in a story with weird people, it's not usually normal events.
Yeah.
The premise of a story is weird events, some kind of a conflict and a resolution.
Yeah.
You know, one that I just saw, it was a TV show called Undone. It's on Amazon Prime. But you can also watch it free on this app called Freebie, by the way. Anyway, the woman, her grandmother had schizophrenia, and so this one main character woman in the first episode, she's like all worried that her brain's broken too, as she calls it. And turns out she ends up developing, after a car accident, hallucinations and delusions and things. But then her father comes to her, that has been dead, and is like, "Oh no, you're actually like a time traveling shaman." And it was so well done. And I would say that's definitely weird people and weird events. So yeah, definitely look it up. It's animated, but it's rotoscoping animation, which I guess is like people bash rotoscoping. I didn't know this, but like I had never heard of it. But apparently it's where I don't know, maybe you guys know it, but like where you film actual people with actual objects and then you just animate over. You do like an overlay.
Yeah, there is some prejudice against it. I don't really understand why. I don't usually like it as much as, I guess because like you had the actors there. Like what are they doing? You just like threw paint on top of their performance.
But in this show, I will say it works very well because it combines normal elements with surreal elements. So it has a lot of surreal images.
It's an Amazon show.
Yeah.
I saw season 1.
I really liked it. I thought it was really well done. But it's interesting because it also deals with normal people stuff. Because it deals with like family issues, identity, connection, past trauma, like healing, all these normal things.
Right. But I think the premise of the story is that there's a weird event. Some 1984 would be weird people because they're breaking from the fascism, unless you want to say they're normal, I guess you could. But they're still dealing with a weird event because, they get hunted and they're breaking from the norms.
I think 1984 is normal, cool, weird events. But I think The Matrix is, the sequels at least, have like people with like Neo can fly, but he's also fighting against a giant computer world. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that was weird people, weird events.
So if you ask ChatGPT, it gives you a lot of ones. One I don't remember watching, but I heard of. Did anybody watch The Lobster from 2015?
No,
I saw that.
Yeah, it says single people must find a partner or turn into an animal.
Yes. And Colin Farrell decided to be a lobster.
That's fun. But they mentioned. Oh, sorry.
No, I was just saying, like, that director, writer, he's, like, lauded around Hollywood. I don't think I've liked anything he made.
What's his name? All right, let me look it up. Or do you know?
I can't remember. I think he also did, like, Killing of a Sacred.
Well,